Previously, when we've been working with this drawing, we played around and enhanced the dimension style, and we suggested that it's a good idea to put dimensions on their own layer. So to do that, I moved to the layer stack, and because the switch all was on, mostly you would work with just all used layers, but this switch was on and we were able to see a whole pile of layers with nothing on them, and we wanted to remove those. So you can highlight a group of layers holding the shift key down like so, and then just click on and what that's going to do is remove a whole lot of layers. So I'll OK that and OK. Now when we go back to the layer stack and all, can you see we've removed all these. If I go on all, there are no empty layers, so that's a very useful technique. And now of course I can simply make a new layer, L-dim, hit enter. I don't want it current, but it's currently empty. But what we're going to do now is take this entity, come over to the box and put it on L-dim. We'll return to the layer stack and just turn it off, so that one is now out of the way. I'd like to move on to a discussion of editing symbols. These are symbols for existing eucalypts. So the existing eucalypt, there are two of them. Now it's usual to put a solid circle or a circle in the centre of an existing tree or shrub. So I'll edit the block. Currently there is no small circle in the middle, so I would draw a circle centre radius and pull it out like so. And we don't need that point marker. Whoops. I want to pick that point marker. I can eliminate that one. In fact, there was no point marker, there was just a couple of crossed lines. Can you see I'm having great difficulty moving around in here, and the reason I'm having difficulty is this user's left snap on. So let's take snap off, and now it becomes a simple matter to erase entities. So I'll close the block editor, and now we've got a circle in the centre of these existing eucalypts, and that follows convention much better than previously. On the subject of convention, notice over here that all object snaps are on. So if we come to this button here, object snap settings, I think this is far too many. These have just all been turned on by the select all button, and that's creating lots of problems when I want to select things, particularly as I zoom in. CAD Plus here is searching all the time for endpoints of lines, midpoints of lines, centres and so on, and that provides us with a difficult way to work in this drawing. So I'd take some of these off. Endpoint's useful. Midpoint you can switch on occasionally when you need it. Centre is a node, not so useful. Quadrant, very rarely used. Intersection is useful. The insertion point of a block, I don't think we need. Perpendicular we can switch, and tangent and nearest you might want to leave that one on, and we'll say OK. We can now work a little more easily with CAD Plus. This design in model space works quite well. We've now got control over our object snaps. And notice in the panel on the right that just those that we turned on are on. And if you look down here in the O snap button, if we click there, that turns those snaps on and off. But I wanted to demonstrate if you move to a layout space where if we go into the Layouts Manager, you can see we have an A3 sheet here and it's in portrait mode. We go into that space. Notice that, let me just jump backwards and forwards and concentrate on the switches down here. If we go into model space, polar is on there, O-snap is on, and line weights are on. If we go here to layout, and only one switch is on. So you can have switches, this set of switches in layout space can be quite different to the set of switches in model space. You will often find when you go to layout space that the grid is automatically switched on and you can snap to that grid. It can be handy to use, but it's important to recognize different settings for different spaces. As you know, layout space is used to display your design and would normally include the scale bar and would normally include a north indicator. So we've got this drawing now in a state where it's reasonably convenient to work with. Its file size is relatively small and things are behaving quite nicely. I still have a problem with the use of line weight. If we pick this line here, which represents some sort of screening, it's labelled a vine trellis. So I have a problem in setting a thickness to that line. I would much rather draw a rectangle to indicate exactly the size of it. So I'll go draw a rectangle. I just pop it down anywhere and then move in this direction. It's probably easier just to click, draw your rectangle. What happened there? Let's try that again. Draw rectangle, 2 points, click and drag. Not sure what happened in the other instance. That might have been caused by GK Plus jumping to one of those O-snap settings. So here you could set the height. Let's just go back and check the length of that line. It's 1999, so it's 2 meters long. Its height, in fact, 2 meters, and the width probably be made with timber of 90 mil, and we can set its colour. Let's make it something like that colour, and we'll put fill on, and we could then make a block of this. So if I just move it from, you can see here, see how GCAD Plus is clicking and trying to find things. So that's trying to find the nearest option. So I'd come over here and just tweak these so that they just add them at the end, not at the beginning of your work. So I digress. We want to now move it from, now we can pick that point quite easily and come over here and pop it into position, and then we can remove and again that's causing me strife, so I'll just temporarily turn it off. What I'm trying to do is to pick that line, so if I use a crossing window now, then hold the shift key down, that removes the rectangle we've just drawn, and right click and erase. So this is a very handy technique for picking an entity that's under another. We would probably want to pick this entity and send it to the back. And that looks nice, nicely done. So we would make that a symbol. So I hope that running through some of those settings, especially the OSNAP settings, work on them until you get to a point where you feel comfortable in this drafting environment, and probably better to run with line thickness just set by default, and we'll talk about that. And we will talk about that in a later movie.